Yeah. What's going on, guys? Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. So for this first part, if you can, please turn on your cameras. I'd like for you guys to introduce yourself as usual. We have here Patrizia Tenconi. I'm trying to say with an Italian accent. I can't, of course. Who's going to be running it's just a small session on e-com, UX and UI, some of the best practices. I'm super excited about this one. I hope you guys are as well. But before we start, I wanted each of you to introduce themselves, and then Patrizia will tell you a little bit about her experience, which is really, really cool. And then she'll dive right into it. So Dania, since you have your camera on, you're first to go. Please introduce yourself and your brand. And then potentially unmute yourself as well.
It's too early here. Good morning. My name is Dania, and I'm the owner and creative director of Dania Shankar brand. We're a contemporary and sustainable bag brand that focuses on combining eco-friendly materials with Italian craftsmanship and unconventional designs. Can
you also let us know if you have a website? Is it ecom ready, and on what platform it is, just as a general?
So I have a website and it runs on Shopify. So it's my online store as well. Most of my sales are through there.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mo, you want to go next?
I can go instead of Mo, but I don't have a camera.
Oh, no issues. Go for it.
Okay, so my name is Hamad. I'm the brand manager at Proud Angeles. We're a streetwear brand. We focus on creativity and individualism, creative expression. And we do have an e-commerce website, and it also run on Shopify.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Dalal, do you want to go next?
So Dalal is currently driving.
Oh, she's driving.
She just messaged, but do you want to just do a cones and rods for her? She's going to be listening, but you can say what she does.
Okay. You want to do it?
Yeah. So Cones and Rods is a luxury eyewear brand. They produce all of their eyewear in Japan. They have an e-commerce site, and I'm going to say, for the sake of it, that they're also on Shopify, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an educated guess, I guess.
Educated, yeah.
Kauthar, do you want to go next? You have to.
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Kauthar. I'm the designer and owner of Calf by Calf that focuses on creating pattern and structured clothing. I do have a website. However, now we are creating our own. So now we are in the making by using WooCommerce and WordPress.
Very good. Cool. Jude, last but definitely not least.
Hello, good morning. My name is Jude Fatani. I'm the creator and designer behind Num's Life. It's a fun, graphic, ready-to-wear lifestyle brand that was built around the secret society of characters. And I do have an e-commerce site that I recently launched on Shopify. Before that, it was on Wix.
Cool. I think that covers everybody that's here. I think more people will trickle in. Patrizia, the floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about your experience, because I think it's super exciting. And then you can start your presentation.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank Rafi for the opportunity and you guys for participating today. I'm very humbled and very excited to be here. So a little bit about myself. I joined Shaloub 6 months ago as a product manager in the e-com team with a focus on mobile and specifically mobile apps. Prior to that, I've been living in London for the last 8 years. Before moving to Dubai, I was working for Google Play and as a product marketing manager, helping EMEA partners and also global ones with their go-to-market strategies on Android, specifically on gaming and apps. Prior to that, I was in Amazon for 2 years, and I contributed to the launch of Amazon Italy in the very early days of their commercial footprint in Italy. So I have spent quite a few years in e-commerce, even though it was mostly on digital and not on physical products. But yeah, the opportunity in Shaloub is very good for me to really add something to my prior experience. And I'm very, very happy now that we have lots of brands to work with, and I'm really enjoying this new PM role, even if sometimes it's very hectic, but this is like a common trait. You probably have hectic lifestyle and hectic way of working in your own startups and concepts as well. So let me start sharing my screen. And we can kickstart. Can you all see it?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so just for the sake of giving you a little bit of introduction on what we're going to talk about today, we're going to review very quickly what is the current scenarios and what are the challenges around e-com customer journey and what is the right approach. Discuss a little bit about developing an MVP when it comes to e-com presence. Then we will dive deep into some best practices, and I have selected a few focus areas which I hope are of interest for everyone, no matter what stage of maturity your brand is in terms of digital presence. I guess these are really some of the basic aspects that you should consider to optimize for when it comes to mobile experience for your customers. And I have prepared a third part around Shopify. Since most of you are familiar with it, because I understand many of you already use it, we will probably touch very briefly on it. I'm not a Shopify expert as well. I mutated these slides from our, let's say, Shopify guru in the tech part, in the tech commerce team. But let's see how the conversation goes. And please feel free anytime to raise your hands, ask questions. This really wants to be a very open session and for you to be able to ask as many things as you want. Okay, so I really think you are all very familiar with the scenario in our area, in our region. But the reason why I'm calling out that mobile commerce is the new standard is because many of my presentation and many of my work streams are really focused on mobile. And so I really think that having an omni-channel strategy now is like the must go, and mobile should be incorporated into every omni-channel strategy as a strong differentiator. So we are in a region where users are very, again, at different level of maturity and of spend. Like we know that in UAE, the average yearly spend on e-commerce is around $3,000. In Saudi, it's probably less than 1,000. And in other countries, it's very at different points. But definitely, we can say that the digital maturity of the region is solid. So we have to be sure that our digital footprint and our e-com model is able to satisfy all these different kind of customers. When it comes to the customer journey, traditionally, you would think about a funnel. So taking your users from their early stages of building an awareness and interest, having them consider your brand, evaluate, decide, and then turn them into loyal, possibly loyal customers. But with the omnichannel scenario, this is much more complex and fragmented. There are so many touch points. There are so many elements that you have to consider in your strategy when it comes to really driving your user into your website, into your e-com platform, helping them decide their purchase path to conversion, and helping retain. So it's really important that you have a customer-centric approach and that you understand as much as possible about how the different touch points come together into your strategy. So I am taking a product management course. So my vision is a bit biased at the moment, with very product-oriented. But I think I wanted to call out that having a problem mindset is sort of a right approach for you as well. So when it comes to thinking about what your website wants to do and what your e-commerce platform wants to do, out there are so many solutions. You can find a solution for everything, from the easiest task to the most complex AR, AI-powered elements to incorporate. But what you really need to ask yourself is, what is my product meant to do? What do I need to offer to my customer? What do I want to do exactly with putting my products online? So first of all, you need to start thinking about the basics. So you have something in mind, you have a prototype, you have a shiny, fantastic e-com platform that you want to achieve. Well, you cannot have it ready on day one. You need to start thinking about a minimum viable product. What is going to do for you? Think about it as a journey to the top of a mountain. So your MVP is the first village where you stop and you find your basic needs. You cover your basics, exactly what a user would expect to see online, with minimal functionality to work, to satisfy their needs, and to become a future viable solution. And then you need to iterate, build on top of that. So in little incremental steps, that's sort of the lean approach that most companies, no matter their size, big or small, are taking in their path to digital footprint. And again, during my product management course, one important consideration that is really like straightforward, but sometimes you are too focused on solving complex issue that you lose sight of what really matters, is that you need to differentiate between what are your vitamins and what are your painkillers, what are your nice to have and what are your must haves. You will not be able to have everything ready on day one and possibly not even on day two. You will have to build your platform and your product in a sustainable way. And so building on top of each other. Always think about what delivers the most value to the customer, and that should be your starting point. Okay, before I move to the best practice, is there any question? I'll take a sip of water meanwhile.
You guys know what an MVP is?
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Dalal.
Hello.
Sorry, thank you, Sinead again. No, I don't know what an MVP is.
Okay, sorry, just gave it for granted. So an MVP is minimum viable product, is like the first basic version of your, think about your e-commerce website. So it is the minimum product that you can put online and will have cover the basic functionality for you. So probably having product pages, listing and a buy button, really what you need to put out there for users to be able to use it and consume it. And so, and something that you can then scale upon, that you can expand, that you can transform into your final fully fleshed out, fully shiny platform. So in product management, developing an MVP is really like one of the core tasks for every person who wants to work, whatever their project is. And so what I was saying before is really to have a problem-oriented mind, not to think about already what the solution is, but to flesh out what is our product. So what are your requirements, what you want to do with your website or your e-commerce platform or your app or whatever you want to develop. Did I answer your question?
Yes, got it.
Okay. Cool. So I'm moving to the best practice section. FYI, this is a presentation that I also gave to the business internally at Chaloup, to different stakeholders that were in tech, in the brand teams, in the product teams, in customer service, etc. So it is tailored to a wide audience at different level of digital maturity. If anything isn't clear, feel free to stop me if I'm going too fast or I am skipping to some conclusions without going into many details and not giving you enough things to understand. Please feel free to raise your hand. Okay, first best practice, page speed. What is page speed? It's pretty explanatory. It's, let's say, the velocity for your brand, for your website to become fully usable on mobile web, or for your app to be fully usable. What you need to think about is that page speed does not happen in one single moment of time. It is a process. From the moment a user types in www.yourbrand.com until the moment that a user can completely interact, see all the content loaded, etc. So there are different events happening during this time. Every one of these events has an impact on the speed at which you can show up your content. Why is it so important? Page speed is strictly correlated to conversion rate and average order value. We all know that we get frustrated if we open up a page and it does not load. And most likely we will abandon it. Every user will just decide, no, this is not for me. So a research made by Google and Deloitte show that conversion rate and order value is really strictly correlated to your page speed. And you need to make sure that all the elements in the page are loading fast enough, become fully interactive quickly enough, and there's nothing that stops your page from a quick loading that breaks the code or anything else. We will see very shortly how images are one of the key components in this process. Responsive.
One question, I saw something on your slide, the previous slide, that's really important and really a great tool. So Google Lighthouse, can you talk about a little bit about that tool? I think it's such a great way to just kind of get started on this particular topic.
Okay, yes, sure. So Lighthouse is an open tool that everyone can access. Is not part of any subscription model, or you don't have to be a Google advertising account, an ad account to use it. It's open to everyone. And if you just type in your website, it will tell you exactly how many seconds each of the steps that I described and that you can see here take to load, like the first page, the page when it opens up, the first content, the first images, time to become fully interactive. It gives you a very good overview of how much it takes for your website to load. And it gives you also benchmarks. It tells you, well, 1 second is good or bad, or 2 seconds is good or bad. Like generally speaking, we consider 3 seconds the maximum threshold for a page to load. That's acceptable. 2 would be optimal, but 3 is acceptable. That's what we are optimizing for our brands, for instance. So with Lighthouse, you can very quickly see it will reproduce the loading of your page, and it will tell you exactly all the KPIs that I just mentioned, if they're good or bad. And you can keep your page under control. It will also tell you if there are any blockers, like pieces of code that are blocking the page, which are the root causes of any delays. It can become a bit technical, so also a tool for devs. But even for someone who doesn't have any coding experience, it's totally accessible, at least for these first few metrics that I mentioned.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay. What is responsive design? Basically making sure that your website can work on all platforms. User jump from one device to another. They want to start their journey on the mobile, and then maybe they want to finish their transaction on the website, because on their laptop they can have a better visualization of your product, etc. So you really need to make sure that responsiveness is fully nailed down on your website. And it also helps with making sure that there is consistency for your brand, for the user, wherever they access your platform. It helps with the fact that you only have to maintain content and updates once, and then it just fully spreads out to all devices. And it also helps with getting traffic from search engines. Just to making sure that we know what we're talking about, basically you will have different ways of viewing your site on different screens, resolution on different devices, but basically the content will be the same. Now, when I mentioned page speed and I said images play a crucial role, I wanted to come to this one. Basically, most of the content that takes time to load in your page are images. We also in Shaloub have experienced I've realized that some brands were uploading images so big that would take up to 7 or 10 seconds for the page to load. So don't give for granted that everyone knows what they're doing when it comes to images. There are techniques out there, and of course, a developer or a designer can help you optimize, but really make sure that this is on your checklist, because there are formats out there like WebP, which help you with having a very good compression. They don't lose quality and they load very fast. And that's something you should really consider when you are creating your image portfolio for your website. Okay, let's move into a bit more of a strategic touch point. What is personalization? Personalization means giving each user the chance to see a content that is tailored to their needs. When it comes to user who return to your page, someone who gets treated as sort of VIP, or that we recognize, that we know what he likes, he will feel much more engaged and will be more likely to come back again and to interact with your product and with your brand. So think about these key, let's say, touch points: serving the right product to the right user at the right time and in the right place. So what should we do when it comes to optimizing your personalized experience? You have different touch points. So as I mentioned, you have homepage and users who come back to your own page for the second, the third, the fourth time. Instead of showing them the basic content that you show to everyone, for instance, you can consider to redirect them to their most visited page, their last visited page, their selected categories based on their browsing history or purchasing histories. On the PDP, you can show users recommendations that are based, again, on their affinity, on other users' top selling, on what is trending at the moment. It's just making sure that you increase discoverability and at the same time you provide a user a very tailored experience. Also on PLP and search, you can make sure that besides showing the basics, you have something else that caters to your users' needs. On PLP, for instance, there's many of the platforms offer the possibility to sort the products based on the user-specific search history or browsing history, instead of showing the same list of products to everyone. And on search, there are also merchandising capabilities out there that can help you serve a banner, serve a content that is really, again, very personalized for each specific user segment. So a few examples here. On the home page, you can see I have a page that shows trending items, top picks that are personalized by my browsing history. That's called recommended for you. On the PLP, I have sorting of product cards based on my experience. On the product detail page, I have top picks recommended for you, complete your style. It's all additional, but it's all helping to create a very tailored experience. And also in cart or after checkout, that's another touch point that you can leverage to offer your user something that is not like standard navigation, but it helps with providing them a better experience. Just as I mentioned, in search box, besides showing, of course, the search result page, You can show banners, you can show other suggested items. There are many, many touch points during the user journey that you can leverage. I'm sorry, I think I need to disable my notification, otherwise we'll keep on hearing.
Oh, we don't hear any of the notifications.
Okay, cool. That's good. I wasn't sure. Let me spend 1 second talking about onboarding. So we said, let's try for returning user to show them something very tailored to their needs, because we know that these people have purchased a specific brand before, have purchased a specific set of items before, or have browsed this specific category before, and we can collect those, preferences and store them in our database. But what happens with new users? New users, you don't know them. You don't know what they like. You don't know what they want to search for. You don't know what are their preferences, etc. But you have an opportunity to create an onboarding experience. So for instance, what other customers are looking at, what other customers are currently buying, what other customers are wish listing. These are all, let's say, social proofed content that a user can interact with in their first experience, and to help direct their navigation. Maybe they don't know what they want to look at, they're just window browsing, window shopping. If they see that other users are interacting with your product, they will most likely go and check out what is the top trending, top selling items. Also, you can use little tricks to create engagement, such as providing rewards or gamification elements, creating a sense of loyalty by giving user a badge if they interact with your products X amount of time, or giving them a little reward if they sign up to your newsletter. These are all encouragements that help the user progress along the funnel. And to understand your funnel, you need to make sure you know where the users are dropping off. So maybe it's because your page loads too slowly, and so they bounce off at homepage directly. Or maybe because your add to cart button is not showing prominently in the page and I don't know where to click. So there are lots of possible drop-off points during the journey, from the moment a user opens up your e-com website to the moment where he completes the transactions. And for new users especially, you need to make sure you have a good understanding of where and when you are losing the interest of the customer. Okay, no, it's not moving. Yeah, okay. Just take a break. Any questions so far?
No questions, guys?
Am I going too fast? Is all clear?
I do have a
Yes.
question, actually.
Yes.
You said it's very important to see where we lose our customer, like at which point we lose them. How exactly would we measure that? Is there a metric about like when people leave the page?
Yes, you can see page by page bounce rate, which is basically the number of users who terminate their sessions at any given point of their journey. So out of the total visit, how many users drop off? That's the bounce rate, basically. And you can find it if you have Google Analytics account or any other analytics tool. That's definitely a metric you will find there.
Shopify would show you.
I think Shopify, yeah, yeah. Shopify has that feature as well.
I was just gonna say that. Thank you.
No worries.
I had a question.
Yes, please.
So I don't know if this is relevant, but how many? I don't know if there's research on which is better, but how many sections or how long should the homepage be? So like, I tend to kind of sometimes oversimplify, but sometimes I don't know if I should be adding more content videos to kind of make them scroll down longer, versus having other pages.
Okay. I don't think there is a solid answer for that. Any brand can have a different approach. I can tell you that, for instance, with the apps we are developing at the moment for some of our brands like Faces and Swarovski and Traiano, we tend to have maximum 2 or 3 carousels with scrollable banners. We tend to, obviously, in the homepage, you would have a hero image. And then when you scroll down the page, you have an addition of 2, 3 maximum carousel. And then you need to make sure you have your basics covered. So you have contact us section, store locator if you have stores, FAQs, newsletter sign up. So I think, yes, not overloading, definitely keeping it simple is a good solution. Then you can organize the content of your website into your navigation menu to make it accessible, not having a too, let's say, overwhelming homepage is, I think it's a good rule of thumb, because you would put too much pressure on the user to discover everything at once. So this is what is our experience at the moment. I don't think there is a rule that, like, a sort of one size fits all approach, but try to think as a user, from a user standpoint, how much content are you able to absorb when you first land on a page? Like, how many videos would you like to see? How many visual elements that compete in the space? We will talk very briefly about space scarcity, especially on mobile web experience. So that's something you really need to consider as well.
I have one question, and for me it's very important. For my current website, I have a huge traffic.
Mm-hmm.
The traffic for a small brand reaches sometimes 50K in 1 month. However, the sales does not say that. So the KPI is actually, I do have a huge traffic in the website. However, I don't know what's exactly the problem. How would I indicate the problem in that situation?
Yeah, that's a tough question. It's probably also a question that every retailer is asking themselves, like, why is my traffic not converting into sales? So I think you should go and have a deep analysis of your metrics, starting from the customer journey. As we said, try to analyze where is your higher bounce rate, where do you lose these customers? You have to consider that some people will come for, let's say, window shopping anyway. So that's not something you can action on. But once we rule out that thought, really try to think, where are your highest bounce rates, or where do you lose your customer? How easy is for users to find the product they're looking for? Like, is your product taxonomy, is your catalog structure in a very organized way? We have some slides coming up for that. I would say focus on your cart and checkout experience. Is it easy for users to put items in the bag, interact with the bag, fill in all the forms? There's a lot of research is at the moment happening. We have like a partner called Baymard. They are one of the UX UI institutions, one of the most accredited around the world. And a lot of work is being put into making cart and checkout flows very accessible. For instance, users get a lot of frustration when they have to fill in the forms and they get errors. They don't know what they are, what mistakes they are doing, if they are choosing a wrong password, if they're typing their credit card wrong. You need to make sure that all the steps where a user is requested to do something are easy and accessible. These are the advice I feel I can give you at this stage. But there's definitely a need to really look into data and having an understanding on where you're losing your customers and what you can improve.
I have another question. I think it will help everyone. Like, do you have an ideal website that you can give us the name? We can go through the customer experience and see for ourselves.
I got this question a lot. I have a lot of examples coming up in the presentation.
That's perfect.
You can try to then elaborate on the website we'll look at together. You can, in your own time, maybe have a deep navigation on and see if they are doing what you would like to do. So yeah, stay tuned. I'm gonna go through those.
I wanted to touch on Jude's question on homepage kind of content and how long it lasts. Are you guys familiar with a tool called Hotjar?
What?
Have you heard of Hotjar?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Hotjar is a free tool. It's a freemium tool, and Patricia can attest to this. And it's a very interesting tool that you very simply integrate into your Shopify or your WooCommerce website, and it'll tell you kind of specifically for Jude's point, like how far down people scroll. It gives you a heat map of all the pages that you want to see, and you'll see where users are clicking, how far they're scrolling, what they're interacting with on a very kind of top line level, just to understand the very first steps of the customer's journey. So it's a very interesting way to say, well, if I have good content and my customers are scrolling all the way down, then that is something that is, that I'm providing something of value to those first users that are landing. But if they're only scrolling down, let's say to 30% of your page, then you need to kind of relook at that and understand, if they're clicking away from that point or if they're leaving altogether. But it's a free tool. It's called Hotjar. And I think the more we go through these sessions, the more I think I need to do a session on tools in general. But it's a great little tool. It's not super sophisticated, but it's perfect for the early stages of understanding some of the behavior. So just FYI. That's it. I'm done.
Thank you, Rafi. I think I would really want your website to be shared, because it seems like you know the ins and outs of everything. So I'd like to look at your own website.
We'll run through a fun session around that. No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rafi. No, I don't know Hotjar, so I'll go find out. Okay. I'll move on to search now, if there are no more questions. Okay. So you probably know that people who come to a website and use search are more valuable in terms of conversion than people who just simply browse. Some researchers say that searchers can convert up to 3 times better than normal browsers. So you really need to make sure that when you put out there a search functionality, you nail down all the basics. There is a lot of things to do around search, definitely, to make it work better and solidly. But I think there are a few key factors that you want to consider to start with, and then build on top, a bit like the MVP approach that we talked about. So first of all, search bar should be always there, very prominently displayed. You preferably a full search bar rather than a simple icon. Helps user visualize where they are going to type in. Your search engine should be able to understand as much as possible natural language, so be able to use compound words or single words that a user can type in very naturally, and also should be able to always return some results. If there is no results for a user's query, you should always display something else. Never end the journey on an empty page, because that's like a dead end and user will drop out. So imagine a user is typing in something and there is a typo in it. Ideally, your search engine will be able to disambiguate and tell user, we don't have results for this. Are you maybe searching for XYZ word? Or we don't have results for this. Why don't you go and look at our top sellers? Why don't you look at what other users are using or searching for? Just make sure that your search is again a moment of interaction with the user rather than creating a dead end. Also make sure that all your results are visually structured in a way that users can see them very clearly, listed, click on them, the hit area is wide enough, that they can scroll through and they understand what they are doing. Now, on top of this, which is really the basics, you have other functionality like visual search. Visual search is like a recent technology that not many brands are using at the moment. It's quite expensive and powered by artificial intelligence, but many researchers are already saying that it can really help boost the sale, especially for products that have such a visual impact like fashion and accessories and exactly what we are, our industry basically. But just to give you a good best practice example, on the left you can see in this website all the search results have been wrapped, spaced, organized. There's a hit area that is wide enough to be clicked upon. There are some keywords in bold so that the user can see immediately how the result is related to the original keyword that he searched for. There's a manageable size for the list, like it does not take the whole screen, hiding everything else. But also because the last line is not cropped, but it's partially visible, it gives you a visual hint that you can scroll down and find more. On the right side, well, this is Amazon, so we have a lot to learn from their UX UI, but you can see there's nothing coming out as a result for that very specific query. So the journey does not end here. Amazon is telling you, okay, maybe you want to see something else that it might be related to your search or something else that other users are searching for, gives you a clue to continue your navigation. As I said, visual search is a very powerful tool. Now, of course, it's not something that can be easily implemented or comes as an out-of-the-box solution. It requires a lot of probably investment as well. But more and more is something that, especially in fashion, is becoming differentiator for players. It comes from user who upload a photo. The journey can be a user upload a photo and algorithm returns something similar. Or a user see a picture in the website, clicks on the item, and the system will show similar items who have the same structure and parameters to be considered similar as that one.
I think it would be helpful to know like which tools or apps we could, or plugins or something that we could use for Shopify, for example, to get these features.
Yeah, we can find out definitely. I don't have the answer at the moment, but if something that might be of interest, we can look into that.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to navigation and taxonomy, which we briefly touched upon. So I was telling you how on mobile, especially the real estate is a premium. So you really need to make sure that you design a navigation that is easy to understand, easy to dive deep into, but also efficient, that shows the user the key elements that you want them to interact with. So for mobile, you have to account for the thumb, what we call the thumb zone. So basically whatever area of the mobile screen you can interact with your thumb. But even if you consider a large web page, you still need to make sure that there are certain hit areas that are the key important areas for your user. What do you want them to see in the first paint when they approach your site? So for sure, you have to have a very prominent and well-organized menu. Your menu is the primary call to action. That's where your user will go to find everything. Keep it as simple as possible. There's really no need to overcomplicate. It will help user navigate and grasp the key concept, the key areas. Search, we already mentioned how it's important to keep it prominent. And just try to avoid distractions like too many pop-ups, too many things that scroll through on their own or visually competing elements. I think we mentioned the carousels before. We were talking about how many carousels you could put in a home page and how you could leverage your space at the best. There are many researches that tell us that carousels that scroll through automatically are not very well performing. Users think they are ads, and like visually they skip them. So if you want to have something that scrolls, make sure that it's user initiated, like user have control on the scrolling gesture. Even when you can put little dots or numbers or arrows, just making sure that you give a visual clue to user that there's more to discover, but avoid any elements that just, you know, moves on its own, because that's not very well perceived. So here we start with some example. For instance, with Farfetch, just basics, the hamburger menu, the FAQ and contact us, expanded view. You can expand on all the categories that you want to see. You have a clear value proposition on the top. So what do you want a user to focus on? In this case, like incoming collections. You have a consolidated nav bar. All your top categories are on homepage. CTAs are very clear, legible. Nothing is automated or scroll on its own. Everything is user initiated.
A CTA is a call to action.
Yeah. So like a buy button, buy now, that's a call to action. What you want the user to do is click on the buy button. That's a call to action. Sephora, we have again, very good inspiration here. You have your value proposition on top, free shipping. So very clear message to the user. You have a nav bar with a cart, the search, very prominent, full search bar, your top categories on homepage. You have a bottom down navigation. So this is not an app. Actually, this is the mobile site, but it's like it has the look and feel of an app if you want. You have an expanded view. You can click through the categories and look at the categories in a very engaging way. Very clear call to actions. Font size is consistent. Nothing is disturbing the user in the navigation. Everything is very accessible. So we said that it's very important to have a clear, organized, and efficient catalog and navigation. So just make sure that there are always few clicks between what the user is searching for and what the results that wherever you want to take them. So you really need to make sure that your structure, your sitemap is clear, is well organized, and doesn't have too many exit points. There is a lot of things that we can say, but I think just nailing it down, why do you need a product structure that is efficient? First of all, it's SEO friendly. So wherever you have a structure that really boosts your website in a solid way, it will help you also increase your visibility and search engine. If you have a customer-centric approach, you will just make sure that a user can interact with every step of your website, of your brand, of their journey in a very solid way. You, for instance, want to show sorting and filtering criteria that are the most relevant to your business. You want to avoid having product in more than one category. You want to have a structure that is clean and organized. You might want to take in consideration language, location, cultural reference, how should it organize to serve a specific target of users that have specific needs. For instance, for us, one of the biggest struggle, and of course there are solutions out there, but we still realize that when we design our mobile apps with the UX UI team, we always design for the English version. And then when we develop and translate everything into the Arabic version, so it's right to left, many things get messed up. So it's really an exercise of understanding your customer, what you should be optimizing for, why some solution might work for one version of the local and some solutions might not. this is just an example of how you want to think about your product catalog, right? So you have your first level of hierarchy, and then you want to have many different attributes that help organize your items in a very clear way. All these attributes will help you having sorting, filtering options, searchable attributes. So everything that you put behind your website in the way you organize your product structure will help you with the front end. Okay, so some best practices. ASOS.com, you have very good sort and filtering menus and relevant filtering options. So not only you have, I don't know, color, size, or the basic ones, you also have some additional ones that help the users discover something new or something very fitting to them, like body fit, responsible, meaning like, is it the sustainable clothing? Some of you mentioned that sustainability is one of their core values in the product. So I guess it's something you definitely need to call out, and it's a key differentiating factor. So just make sure to include it in your navigation and in your product structure. This example from Nike also adds another layer. It's a pictorial menu above the listing. So you can have all your filtering options on the left, very well organized, but you also have visual clues of all the like collection or kind of sneakers that you want to look at. So it's another level of discoverability for user. Okay, do you have any questions so far?
No, but it's interesting, and for me, I visited this website and I felt in love, and I will tell you what I felt when I saw it, and I encourage everyone to see it, which is the Jacquemois, the brand. The customer experience is authentic. You just feel the whole aesthetic in Jacquemois website. I visit a lot of websites just to see, especially the luxury brand, just to see their experience to the customer, especially that this is our field that we're going for. So I would encourage everyone to visit all of those, but Jacquemois for me is the best example of how aesthetic brand, for brands.
Thanks for sharing. If you want to paste it in the chat, maybe we can all have a look.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
For product pages, do you recommend, I never know what to do. Like I never know if I should put my latest drop in the beginning or sort out my product page based on the bestsellers. How would you recommend us sorting out the product page images?
So you're talking about product listing pages, right?
When you go to shop all and then you find all your products,
okay.
Yeah, do you recommend that, for example, the first row, should it be the first, shall it be the newest or latest drop of colors, or shall it be the bestsellers in the beginning?
Right, so ideally, as I mentioned, you should try to personalize this as much as possible. So for a returning user who has already somehow expressed their preferences in the past, and they have very clear preferred product lines or styles or colors, you will show them what is best for them based on the behavioral data that you have collected. But I realize this is not always possible. For new users or also in general, I think that calling out what's new is always a good practice as well, because you give like a feeling that your platform is maintained, is fresh, has new content, cares about launching new stuff regularly. I will also suggest that you find a way, I will show some example here now, to call out what's new in a very prominent way, like putting a badge on the new arrivals, creating a new in section, just calling out the elements that help users visually recognize immediately what is new. So yes, I would definitely call out what's new. But I would also consider if you have a very a core base of user who you know very well, you know which are their preferences, also think about to source their listing in a different way that is more catered to their preferences.
Amazing, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, let's talk about PDP, so product detail pages. These are really the core of your e-commerce. They are the pages that drive most conversion. They are the pages that get the highest traffic. They are the pages that help user decide, yes, this is the right product for me or not. It's also true that the template is under a big, let's say, strain or challenge, because you reuse the same template for a lot of pages in your website. So all the product pages have a similar structure. So you really need to make sure that all the elements you put in have a value for user, have a meaning for the user journey, and are just not cosmetic or can be distracting, etc. Just try to think about what you want to show, what are your priorities. PDPs are really decision-making drivers. So for a user who gets frustrated when they receive the product and they understand that it does not correspond to what they initially saw online, that's a lost customer. Like 50% of shoppers, researchers say that return items just because they don't match what they see online. So just make sure to close the gap and to have a very consistent and solid experience at the PDP level. So users expect to see a lot of things in a PDP. Now we will review some best practice, but at least I would say when you think about your MVP, have the core information in place, in the right place, and try to avoid creating disappointment. So when you design a PDP, you have to think about that you are really taking the hand of the user and walking with them in a journey that goes from the information searching to the evaluation phase to the decision making. So the more you can engage at every of this step with the user, the more you have likelihood to succeed in the final conversion step. PDP serve different purposes, and every element has a very precise goal. So the first thing that users do when they come to a PDP is they're looking for information. So at least they want to see a product name, description, at least a few images. What are the variants, if any, size, colors, maybe some basics like product care, product information, etc. Then they move to evaluation phase. So is this really the best product for me? I'm gonna, as a user, want to see what's the price, if there's any sale, which are the delivery timings, delivery costs. If there are social proof elements like other users, did they like this product or not? Like ratings, reviews, etc. Then to evaluate if this is really the best choice for me, I might also want to see some other recommendations, like similar to this item, I will recommend you this one. Related to this item, I will recommend you this one. And if there's any additional services like gift wrapping, personalizations, etc. Then, if this is really the right product for me as a user, I will move into the decision-making phase. And at that point, I might decide to buy it immediately, or I might decide to save it for later. So I want to know the stock information. So how many items you have left, if this item is running out of stock or there's low stock. And I want to find, of course, the main call to action. So add to button, add to cart button, add to wish list button, or find in store in case you have a physical space. As a best practice, I'm bringing you this Fortress brand. It's craftsmanship, how do you call it? Very high-end leather shoe brand. And I think there are many elements that we can get inspiration from. So first of all, you can see on the top navigation, there's a clear menu, access to cart, search the delivery information on top. Then you have navigation breadcrumbs, so you always know which step of the journey you are. You have a large picture carousel, and it's user initiated with the arrows. You can scroll through. There are at least 5 or maybe even more images, so you can really appreciate the product from every angle. There's the key basic information, the product name, the pricing. Here you have a payment plan and ratings, but everything is above the fold. So whatever is above the fold gets seen immediately by the user, and it's a very good experience. Ideally, you would also put the buy button above the fold, or make it sticky. Means that above the fold means is visible in the first portion of the screen when you upload the page. No, you don't need to scroll down to find the call to action button. And this is like the first portion of the screen that user interacts with. So if you can make the button always visible in the screen, that's a big win. Moving on to the right, you can see we are scrolling down the page. So what we find, the variants in color and size. We have a size guide button, so users can be guided through choosing the best size for their needs. We have all the CTA buttons. We have an add to cart. We have a fast checkout option. And we have description. This is a collapsible panel, meaning that you can open or close at the touch of a button, and it helps organize the content. Now, if I move on, you will see they have many other collapsible panels. This is really a best practice to organize the content. So you don't have a long page, but user can just select which areas they want to interact with. So there is description, the feed, more details, return and exchange policy. And then because they are like a very high-end and artisanal brand, they tell you what's the story behind the brand, how the shoemakers work. Then they have a section with ratings and review. And then they have more recommendations, like more items, similar items recommended for you. I think this is a good example. There are things that can be improved, of course, but there is a solid basis to start with, and you can get inspired by it. One very important element of PDP is definitely the image selection. So we talked about how it's important to have a carousel of images that user can interact with. I think it's also very important to say for you who work in the fashion industry that you really need to make sure the user can appreciate your product from different angles. Possibly what I've seen happening in many sites now is that there is a choice of different body shapes that the product is presented on. So if a person is more skinny, if a person is a bit more curvy, they can appreciate how the same item looks like on different sizes and on different shapes. So inclusivity, I would say, is a very good approach when you think about how to shoot your product image as well. Yes, this is what I was talking about, like this website, which I'm sorry, I don't remember which it is, but I'll find out because I cropped the image, offers user a choice to see models wearing the item in different sizes. So the user can really appreciate the same product being applied to different kind of body shapes. What we were talking about before is that you can use your PDP also to provide additional content. You can use descriptions to talk about your brand, what you are doing, what is your unique selling proposition. If you are using sustainable materials, if you are, I don't know, having a connection with some specific initiatives in your region, if you are leveraging any social media network, whatever is your really key core value, you can talk about it. For sure, it's a differentiator. But also elements of scarcity and urgency, as we said before, can be a powerful driver for users to decide. Now, a bit of little dive deep into rating and reviews. So rating and reviews are a powerful tool, definitely can influence other purchase, other user behavior, but it also takes time to build and maintain a solid repository of reviews. So if you start implementing in, and then at the end of the day, you only have 1 reviews out of 100 products, that's not really adding anything, or it can also harm you, like giving users a sense that you're not really maintaining this tool. Also, think about the time it takes to build a solid repository of reviews means that your products need to be in stock for a long time. If you're working with fast-moving collections and you change your items every few weeks, it doesn't make sense to waste time trying to build a review database, because the items will move out too fast. So think about it with a grain of salt, as we say, and if that's really suitable for you. To give you a good example, this beauty retailer called Ulta, I think is doing a very good job. So they have all the reviews be above the fold, as we said, in the first panes you can see. Then when you click into the section, you can see that they have a distribution bar. So you can see how many users voted 5-star, 4-star, etc. They have some pros and cons topic tags. And then they organize so they can, for instance, read the most helpful positive review, the most helpful critical review. So you can really have a good sense of why the users are voting this product X amount of rating of stars, or what are they saying about the products. It's very detailed and it's a lot of effort, but there are definitely partners out there. For instance, for for Faces, we are in conversation with Yotco, which is a provider, a third-party company that will manage the ratings and reviews for us. Any questions? Okay. Moving on to cart. So we talked about the fact that many users at some point drop out of your website. They drop out of the funnel, they don't convert. So what should we do about it? There is a very high cart abandonment rate across all industries. There are people who come to your website just to explore and don't want to buy, or there might be other issues lying behind in their conversion experience. So just giving you an idea, if you look at on the left, why do people abandon shopping carts? A lot of them are just looking. Some of them are discouraged by shipping options. Some of them are coming to compare price. Some of them want to buy in store, but also some just talk about lack of payment option or technical issues. On mobile phones specifically, cart abandonment is higher. And we have another chart to talk about this, but there are still a lot of people who prefer to transact on web because they have a bigger screen, they can read all the details, they can appreciate the whole experience more. What should we do to consolidate our shopping carts? So just best practice, making sure that you have a few basics in place. You can save your journey, save for later, move your item to the wish list, give users a chance to come back later and finish their journey. Then you can also try to increase your cart value. You can show user product recommendation. You can give them a chance to add something else. Cart with lower values are really the ones where users abandon more frequently. If a user spends time to fill in a cart, lots of items, and it's most likely there's a higher chance that he will progress into the conversion funnel. When your user abandon a cart, you also want to think about a strategy to win them back. So there are many programs like cart abandonment follow-up emails that can help you win back your users. you can then reach out and say, hey, we saw that you left these items in the cart. Why don't you come back and finish your purchase? We can offer you a 10% discount if you do it now, or any other sort of follow-up emails that you can try to win back the customer. Other few basics about cart. So make sure that it's modifiable, so users can always edit product quantity. Show a value proposition at the step of the journey, like, are you qualifying from free delivery? Yes, your cart qualifies for free delivery. Don't make it like a shiny announcement so the users know what to expect next. Try to have cart to button that is always, add to cart button that's always visible, like we said, above the fold. That will help user see where is the area they want to interact with. Don't redirect into checkout after adding to cart. This is what we are doing also as a best practice on our mobile apps. User add a product into cart and then go back to shopping. The cart is the last step of their journey. We don't want to force them to transact immediately. We want to give them the chance to explore more. Displaying cart total is also good practice, so users know exactly how much they are supposed to spend. And another time, scarcity or urgency elements can help you, like convincing the users there's low stock of this item, we suggest you to complete your transaction right now. Next step from cart, moving to checkout. And as I mentioned before, there are some concerns and reasons why people abandon the checkout, or they prefer to transact on desktop. In any case, conversion rates are generally quite low in all industry, but because we want to drive revenues from e-com mainly, we have to make sure that we nail down the cart and checkout experience as much as possible. That's really the best effort you can put. Okay, so some examples. You want to simplify as much as possible. Also, I was mentioning Baymard researches around cart and checkout. Key pain points are filling out too many forms, asking user to perform the same action twice, like, for instance, I can give you an example around billing address and shipping address. Sometimes they're not the same, but most cases they are. So you should never ask your user to type in twice their address. You just give them the chance to very quickly check out using their shipping address and billing address and combining them in your backend. So just try to reduce the user fatigue by simplifying as much as possible. Some retailers offer a one-page checkout. It's not always possible, but at least try to tell users you are one step away from completing a transaction, or you're 2 steps away. So what happens when you click the next button? So you show progress indicator. And second, very important, also don't show distraction elements. When people are in the checkout phase, you hide the menus, you hide FAQs, you hide your home button, you hide everything. Just let them focus on that and you don't give them exit points. You explain what to expect, include all the CTAs, so click here for next, and if possible, also adding contact information and helpline. Clearly indicate all the costs, taxes, any promotion that is applied. If you have a chance, include delivery ETAs and all the details about when the user is expected to receive the items. Always allowed for guest checkout. Don't force users to log in at checkout page. They can do it later. They can sign up after they complete their purchase. That's another exit point. So my user might get frustrated and say, oh, I don't want to sign up now. So just let them check out with an email address and a phone number. When it comes to payment, try to reassure users that your payment gateway is safe. So you're using a trusted platform, you're using safe payment systems, you provide as many payment options as possible. As I mentioned, just try to make sure that your forms are simple effective, and that you clearly explain users if they're typing in something wrong, what they are expected to type in. These are called validation error message. So if a field is green, I filled in correctly. If a field is red, there's an error. But what is the error? I need to know so I can go back and fix it. As much as possible, you can use drop-down menus. So for instance, country, city, phone numbers. You can have automated fields, so you can reduce manual typing error. There are also tools that help you with recognizing the credit card type. You add a little icon, you organize the credit card number into smaller pieces so a user can type in very quickly. Oh, and that was the last one. Okay, I'll take a moment. If you have any question, let me know.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you touched on indicating the taxes in the checkout part. And I have a problem with doing that because so I'm shipping my products from abroad, and every country has a different custom duties rate. So I don't know how to indicate that per customer. Yeah, what would you recommend, or are there any tools that we can integrate or plugins for that?
I'm not sure I have the right answer.
It's a tricky question, Dania. I think there are certain tax calculators or VAT calculators that you can get from the Shopify App Store. There's also a way to indicate like an average tax or VAT from Shopify natively, but then you're gonna. It's a tricky exercise. It's yeah, I don't think there's a straight answer for that, but I do think there are a couple of apps on the Shopify App Stores, like the plugins, and you can play around a little bit with that.
Okay.
So you have a dynamic VAT tax structure. So depending on where the item's going,
Or shipping too.
Depending on the country of shipping, I think so. We'll have to look into it.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, I have 2 quick slides on SEO because I'm not an SEO expert, but I just want to give you a very, very quick guideline on what are the best practices here. So you should know that since 2020, Google algorithm is mobile first. So really your mobile presence, the mobile version of your website is what the search engine is looking at when it comes to ranking your platform in the search results page, search engine result page. So make sure when you work with your developers to incorporate as many best practices as possible in terms of titles, URL, meta descriptions, use a keyword research tool. In Google Search Console, you will find a lot of suggestion on which keyword you should incorporate, with no keyword overstuffing, because that's not like best practice to stuff random keywords in your page code, but just try to be very selective. Having a consistent sitemap and optimized image and responsiveness, all the things we mentioned before about page speed, loading techniques, loading product and pagination. These are all things that help with SEO. So you will see that all the best practice that we touched upon not only help you to build a solid platform in the terms and from a user journey perspective, also help you to have a solid structure in place to get your website ranked higher from the search engines. When you write your snippets for the search engine as well, you just need to make sure again that you use the right set of keywords, images, meta titles, URLs. Just make sure that you follow best practice. And again, if you go on Google Search Console, you will find tons of suggestions on how to do that. It's a step beyond building your platform, but it's really a must-have. You cannot miss out of having your beautiful website correctly indexed by the search engine.
And guys, we can have a separate session if you guys want with me on kind of how Google works, not only from an SEO perspective, but from an SEM perspective, just to give you some of the fundamentals, because this is probably a little bit too technical for you guys, but explaining a little bit more in depth how it works it's quite imperative, and you never have to do this yourself. If it becomes too technical, I'll show you a couple of tools where you can piggyback off freelancers around the world that can do this really quickly and cheaply as well. So we'll schedule something around this as well, just giving you a heads up, guys.
Cool, that's a good point. Okay.
Can we have this presentation after, if it's okay?
Yes, you can have it, sure. I think this will be my last part, also because I have only like 10 minutes left. I need to jump to the eCom town hall, but I want to touch on Shopify because many of you are familiar with that. So I think we should go wrapping up very soon. So I've added a section that I also included in the playbook that I share with the business about what you should consider when you say, okay, I want a mobile web, but I also want an app, or should I go app first? What are the questions you should ask yourself? So in terms of approach and business strategy, you should know that app users are definitely better at conversion. So app is better for transaction, is safer, loads quicker, works offline, has a series of pros and cons that I can show you in the next slide. And it's generally like a newer technology and more reliable. But on the other hand, website is still your top search for traffic, your top source of traffic. So you cannot miss out having a presence. And also it's less expensive and easier to maintain. So if you look into pros and cons, mobile site don't require any distribution platform, while for apps you have to go through App Store, Play Store, or Huawei Gallery, or whoever is coming next. And your user will need to be aware and download the app on their device. Mobile site, you don't need to install, nothing needs to be installed. Development is easier and quicker. On the other side, with an app, you can have the user interact with it offline. They have more advanced functionality, can use device geolocation, camera features, so allow the user to interact in a different way. Also collect first-party data, which is very important, so you can then retarget your user through in-app notification, send them direct message, and have a very strict control on what they are doing, how much they're spending in your app. From a cons perspective, mobile sites are generally slower. There's no offline access. There's limited access to device features. But our apps require also download and memory space in the phone, require platform-specific development. If you are an iOS app and an Android app, they require different coding. They require a distribution party, and they're generally more expensive to build and maintain. But this is just a very, very high-level overview. Every business will have their different needs. So it's something you should incorporate in your business plan and strategy, how much investment you want to put into your e-commerce footprint. Now, this is going to be something that you can read in your own time. I created an optimization assessment, and I have listed all the features that we talked about in the best practice section. It's like page speed, personalization, search, and all the others. For every initiative, I have highlighted some metrics and tried to provide a high-level overview of how much effort and how much impact you should consider. So when you prioritize, so for instance, you need to understand where you want to invest your money when you first develop your e-com platform. If you want to have a super powerful personalization tool, the effort will be high because you need to collect data, you need to have some capabilities in place that re-elaborate those data and serve different experience to different user, but the impact is very high because you can provide user a very tailored journey. On the other hand, navigation, for instance, you can optimize it quicker by ordering products by traffic volume, removing whatever elements is disturbing the user journey, and you will have a lower implementation effort, but you will have still significant returns. So have a look at this. I hope it helps you driving your product roadmap. You will find all the initiatives that we discussed in here. And the last part, as I mentioned, was on Shopify, but many of you are familiar with it. And so you will find it in the charts. You can decide if you want to expand on this or not. Any other questions?
Don't be shy, guys. As usual, if you guys do think of any other questions afterwards, just ping us and we can ask Patrizia if we don't know the answer ourselves. Thank you so much for your time, Patrizia. It was wonderful. Thank you for the session. We'll share the deck with the guys, and hopefully you have a good, how should I say, a successful roadmap of app launches coming up for you, because I know it's going to be quite heavy.
Thank you.
So guys, thank you very much for your time. I can stick around for a little bit longer if you guys don't have any kind of more specific or in-depth or personalized questions based on your brand, and we can dive into it. So I'll stick around for a little bit more. Patrizia, you're free to go, and thank you very much for your time once again.
Thank you. It was a lovely session for me. Very happy to help out more. So Rafi, feel free to shoot questions if the guys have more. And it was nice meeting you all, and wish you good luck with your brands and projects.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ciao,
Bye
Patrizia.
bye.